Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Haunted Histories with yours truly, Penny Griffiths Morgan. Now, I've been quite busy just recently, as you can probably tell. Book number 5 is well, possibly by the time you listen to this, it will be released on Amazon, The Elements of Epping Forest, with a foreword, which I'll be honestly say made me cry when I read it, written by the lovely Jane Harris. So that's kind of what I've been up to recently. Been quite busy. But I also thought that some of my podcasts, I've been going all over the place. And obviously the last one that I released, I was talking to Vlad Blaj all about Romania. And if you haven't listened to that one, do, because his knowledge of his subject is brilliant. But I thought I would kind of go down market with the next one, really. And I'm waiting for my two guests to comment on my saying that. But in all honesty, I had an amazing time recently at Landguard Fort in Felixstowe. Now, anyone who knows me will know that this is one of my favourite places. I've been there quite a few times. I love the place. It never ceases to amaze me. And the little group I was in when we got to investigate that with the Paracom team contained the two gentlemen who are my guests tonight. We have Essex boy, Mr. Wayne Seaden, and Mark, don't mention dolls, Williams. How you doing, boys?
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good, thanks.
And yeah, so the three of us, I think for you two, am I right in thinking it was your first time at Landguard when we visited there? Yeah. Now, I know, Mark, you never believe me when I tell you stuff. And I said to you, no, he's shaking his head for anyone because obviously this is a podcast. People can't see you, but he's shaking his head. He never believes me. Never believes me. I actually think he does believe me, but he can't be seen to believe me. I think that's what it is. Because I said to him, Landguard is amazing. It's one of the most active places I have ever been. And whilst I do love the readout at Harwich, which is kind of just across the estuary to it and quite linked as well, which I may get onto later, Landguard beats it hands down. And at the beginning of the evening, you said to me, all right, we'll see. Now, without letting on too much, what was your opinion by the end of the evening?
In one word, love the place. That's 2 words, actually.
Love to the 3.
3. Okay.
It's a good job you're a good ghost hunter, isn't it? Because you wouldn't make it as a mathematician.
No, definitely nothing to do with maths. Thank you very much. No, I went there with an open mind, and everybody said it was really good and whatever, and you were going on about it. And like most places, you have to go in thinking, really, are they all hyping it up? And yeah, bits of it I would say are a little bit hyped, but it kind of, I want to go back. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Now, Wayne, obviously you'd never done Landguard before. I presume you've done Harwich.
Yes, definitely.
And you've also done Beacon Hill, which is another one of the sort of the forts in the area.
Yeah, just around the corner.
What did you think? Did you have any preconceptions of what Landguard was going to be like?
Very similar to Mark, really. It was what other people had said about the place. Mm-hmm. How amazing it was and what activity they had there. Mm-hmm. But again, as with Mark, I always keep an open mind when I go into places, because I don't like to have thoughts about a place. Mm-hmm. Wandering around in my head, will I see this or will I see that? Because that's what somebody else had experienced.
Yeah.
I'd like to go in there and experience my own separate incidences, mm-hmm. something that would be personal to me to experience. And when I walked into the place, I just thought, wow, this knocks Harwich Redoubt Fort and Beacon Hill straight off the top spot. And obviously by the end of the night, I was just amazed by the place, and I can't wait to go back.
Cool. Oh, 2 more ticks, one of my favourite locations. So just to give a bit, I mean, anyone who's read my first book, My Haunted History, I did write about Landguard in there because over the years I have had some, well, I can't really think of a polite way of putting it, but weird as shit experiences at that place. That is the technical term for it, and I don't care what anyone else calls it. They were weird. One of the place itself has had some kind of fortress-esque establishment there since the 16th century, since Henry VIII's time, although the roots of the fortress that is there now wasn't built until the early 17th century. One of the most famous events that happened there, and I did get into an argument again with someone about this when I posted this recently, which that's me punching someone, by the way, because it drives me nuts. In 1667, it was the site of the last attempted sea-borne invasion of England. Not Britain, not Scotland, not Wales, not Ireland, England. And I'm saying that for a reason, because obviously Fishguard happened about 100 years later. But at the time, there was some the group that were based there were under Captain Nathaniel Darrell, and they are what in effect became the Royal Marines, although they weren't known as the Royal Marines until I think it was about 1803, 1804, they became known as that. So they saw the nasty Dutch off when they tried to land on the beaches at Felixstowe, and in fact Darrell got injured as a result. He got shot through the shoulder, and this actually happened in July 1667. So we're kind of doing a bit of an anniversary for it, and that's probably one of the things that the fort is best known for. Now, while I was doing my research on this, I found this cracking book on an archive, like internet archive. It was written back in 1898, and I'm just looking for the name of the author. It was a Major J.H. Leslie, and he actually in this book covered the history of Landguard from the 16th century up until 1898, and it was really interesting to read as a nerd. Anyway, but the area has always had some kind of lan or lang in its name. Back in the Doomsday, it was known as Langerstuna. 1580, it was known as Langerston or Lunga Point. So whereas I always thought it was called Landguard because it's guarding the land, it's always had that kind of name for over 1,000 years, which I thought was quite interesting. So you've got major rebuilding work being done at the place, and there are certain ghosts that are meant to frequent there. In fact, back in the mid-1800s, there was actually an article written by one Lieutenant Colonel Garland Matthews called The Ghost of Landguard Fort. So it's not a new thing, people thinking that Landguard is haunted. Now, it's been rebuilt a couple of times. It was rebuilt in the early 18th century. It was rebuilt in the late 19th century. The era that I am most interested in is probably the 1900s, what happened to it, what it was used for during the 1900s. But we'll get on to that in a second. So, and actually, this will interest you, Wayne. One of the eyewitness accounts, no, seriously, this will, it will, stop laughing at me. One of the eyewitness accounts of the Dutch landing on the beaches to invade Landguard was actually documented by one of the observers based at Beacon Hill. There you go. I said that would interest you.
Yeah.
So when we investigated there the other week, one of the areas I wanted to go was one of the bathroom areas, because I'd had some very weird stuff happened to me there, and actually to my then 4-year-old son as well. And I think I told you both this story. I can't remember. I know I told you, Mark. I don't know if I told you, Wayne. About 3 months before that, I'd gone to investigate there, and during it was daylight. I was helping a team out who were doing it, Fright Nights, and so I'd gone around to check out some of the areas, and I'm standing in front of that ablutions block that I was in, and I heard what sounded like scuffling on gravel from inside it, and then a voice going and somebody standing next to me heard as well, and in fact he did a runner. It scared him. So yeah, he didn't last very long. Me, I just went straight in the room to try and work out what was making the noise. He buggered off back to where everyone was having a coffee. But anyway, that's when I then found out about the story of the World War One soldier who was meant to have died in there. We don't know if it was accident, messing around or foul play or what. Interestingly, there's no records of a World War One soldier having died in the bathroom block, but there are a couple of suicides, but that's by the by. The weird thing was, a few months later, I took the kids there because lots of steps. So I thought they could run around, tire themselves out, explore, do boy gun things. And I am standing there with my 4-year-old and he starts waving at the room. I was like, dude, what are you waving? And he went, the soldier man in the corner's waving at me. Yeah.
Wow.
To say I was like, I was kind of, I didn't know what to say to him. I went, all right, then that's nice, dear. And then I got him to describe the soldier man to me. Now my youngest is autistic, and at this point his communication skills were limited. But he pointed at a picture of a World War One soldier and said, that's what he looked like. Now, I'd not told him what I'd experienced. Obviously, he was 4. But it was genuine innocence in a child waving at someone who was waving to him in the corner. Now, that was weird. But I was on my own in that room and you guys were off in one of the other areas.
Yeah.
Weren't you? What were you up to when I was sat in that room on my own?
I think
we'd gone into the guard room, hadn't we?
Yeah, that's it. We'd gone into the guard room and put a load of stuff out, didn't we? And was getting a
very
little
strange
bit
EVP.
Yeah.
So what was strange about it?
Basically told us to go away in not so many polite terms.
Oh, we swear on this show, it's fine.
Well, we originally we'd set up one of the directional REM pods on the guard room table, and me and Mark both walked outside. And just as we stepped out into sort of like the inner moat area, we heard the REM pod go off. So we peered in through the window, and the lights were flashing on all 4 sides.
Yeah,
going literally going round in a circle, going off at random. So me and Mark went back in again, and we started to call out, and we'd heard a few knocks and a few clicks, and Mark suggested I used my old Royal Air Force rank. So I stood there and said, "This is Corporal Seaden, K84200355. Can prisoners please step forward for inspection?" And during this, Mark's recording the EVP. So we play it back, and just after I say my name, rank, and serial number, and ask for him to come forward for inspection, a voice tells us to fuck off.
Okay.
And it was at that point when we went, okay, that is very strange, because that is clear as a whistle. You can tell it had told us that. So we just said, shall we leave? Because they obviously don't want us here. I don't think we stayed for much longer after that. I think we did move on.
Wow.
I think we was there. No, I think we was there for a little bit longer, weren't we? Because we went down into the illegal cells and put some stuff down there,
just to see whether anything else, whether it would repeat itself. And we tried it a couple of times, but there wasn't really much else, was there?
No, I think you got the best response in the.
Yeah.
Well, I know the experience I was having in that bathroom was surreal, because we set up the REM pod, didn't we, in the bath?
Yeah, but every time you left,
it went mad.
You had to go back.
Yeah, they kept calling me back. Yeah, and I literally was like having to deal with someone who was having a panic attack, asking them to sort of calm down. And can you remember the name that we used? Because this sounds really unprofessional, but I did write it down somewhere. Oh, I wrote it down. And I have been doing some sort of research on people who died in tragic circumstances. And I want to say I was calling him Bob, but I can't remember.
I can ask Lee because I think Lee recorded you doing a lot of stuff.
He did. He did, because I've not heard from him, because he said he was going to listen to see if he picked up anything. I've got a feeling I said the guy's surname was Robert or Roberts.
Robert rings a bell for some reason. I don't know why.
If that is the case, and I said his surname was Roberts, I may know who it was.
I don't know why, but Robert seems to ring a bell. And I've got no reason for that name to stick in my head.
No. But yes, it's correct. Every time I sort of, nothing was happening. So I wandered off, and I was with those two ladies who were, one of them was a psychic.
Yes.
And could hear a REM pod go, where the hell's that REM pod going off? Because it was really screaming. And she said, I think it's where you just were. And yeah, every time I walked away from there, the REM pod would scream. But the other weird thing that happened was the temperature in that bath was warm. The temperature inside the bath itself was warm, and outside of it, you could feel it like there was heat rising from hot water.
I was going to say.
And that was weird, because that sort of big, was it a big lead bath? I wouldn't expect it. And this was when the temperature had started dropping. It was as though there was something warm inside the bath giving off heat.
I was going to say that should have been freezing cold, because it wasn't.
It wasn't, and it wasn't just me that felt it. Yeah, it was weird. But what I'm saying is, if his surname was Roberts, like I say, I think I know who it might have been. If you want to hear this, I only found this out today, and it's made me go a bit. Ugh. Okay, so back in April 1914, so before World War I started, a sapper, Harold Roberts, shot himself. He apparently was really happy. He was a Royal Engineer, very happy. Had been nattering to one of his mates. He walked out into the parade area out of the barracks, and they heard a gun go off, ran out, and shot himself through the temple. Nobody knows why. There was no suicide note, anything like that. And he was 20 years old. He was from Liverpool. He had a fiance. He didn't have a dad. I don't think he'd ever had a dad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had a birth father, but he didn't have a father. His mum was unmarried. He was born in 1893. So to be born illegitimate in 1893,
it's not good.
It wouldn't have been, he wouldn't have had an easy life. I mean, I did find him on the census records. There was a Roberts, Harold Roberts, who was in the workhouse at the same time, but it isn't him, it's a different one. But by the looks of it, he joined the military quite young. Although I can't find his enlistment papers, not the definite ones, because there's a few Harold Roberts from Liverpool. But yeah, he was born in late 1893. His mum wasn't married, although in the newspaper article and talks about his funeral, because he's buried in Walton in Liverpool, it says Mrs. Roberts, his mum. Well, she wasn't a Mrs. So whether that was a Freudian slip or an intentional slip of the newspapers, I don't know. But I'm wondering if that was him.
We're going to have to go back and find out.
If that was him. If I reminded him of his mum or something, I don't know. Or
that's what I was going to say. Did you have like the look or complexion of what his mum did?
Who knows?
Yeah. Or the voice?
Well, I doubt that. If they were from Liverpool, she was from Liverpool as well, according to her birth records. The only link is my mum's from Lancashire, and Liverpool was classed as Lancashire back then. That's the only link. And how old has she been when he died? 25. Yeah, she'd have been about 40 when he died. But it was just so weird to find. And the Roberts, that name. And the thing is with him, they had no idea. I could almost imagine it if the war had started and he knew he was about to be shipped out to France. But the war wasn't
maybe
even...
he didn't. Yeah, but maybe he just didn't want to be there, but he couldn't get out of his enlistment and just thought the only way out was.
Yeah. Well, they don't even know for sure. They said it was suicide by temporary insanity, because obviously then it means he can be buried in a graveyard and everything else. And they did find a letter on his person, but the coroner ruled it had nothing to do with the suicide. I can't help but think maybe it wasn't. Maybe there was someone else involved.
Yeah, or maybe he had seen something that he couldn't deal with.
Don't know. But it would be interesting to go back and see if we can contact him again and see if that is Harold.
Yeah.
Be interested to find out.
But it did make my blood run cold when I found it. I was kind of, yeah.
I think that's what makes a lot of investigators go back to places when they get information like that come through on the night, and then they discover later on that there was actually somebody there of that name and that actually had done that. It makes you want to go back even more to try and maybe get back in contact with them again to try and find out a bit more information.
Yep.
And, you know, and the amount of times it's happened to me when I've gone out onto an investigation and we've come out, you know, rubbing our heads going, well, how did that happen? Where's this? And what's that?
Yeah.
And we've literally had something happen where we've been given a name before we've got to the location. And during the actual investigation, we've had activity that's pointed us in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And then we've had the answer all within half an hour of itself. And we've just come out rubbing our heads going, I can't believe that's happened.
I must admit, when I'm researching, whether it's for this, whether it's something like Help My House Is Haunted, I kind of follow my gut feeling, which route I should be. And I've kind of let myself find the route, if that makes sense. And it normally, well, say Jane reckons, I kind of, she reckons I've got a website of horrible stories that I'm just waiting to find one that fits with whatever her story is for the help. But this one, I weirdly, I'd not found this one before, and I've done quite a lot of research into Landguard, but it just came up today while I was looking for it, so I started digging into it. But it was strange. It was. I mean, you guys heard the REM going off.
It was like mad,
screaming.
Yeah, I've never heard that go off like it did there. I've seen it go off before, but not as mad as it was going.
It was like someone was screaming. It was very strange, very strange.
Yeah.
But
maybe that's a way of him screaming with the pain or something like that. Because when you play with the REM pods, people or spirits just touch it or go near it, so it goes on and off. So them kind of grabbing it, would that mean that they're trying to get rid of their anger, their frustration, their pain?
I don't know. I mean, all the reports that I read said that he was very happy-go-lucky, enjoyed his job, was always ready with a joke, was teetotal as well. So he wasn't alcoholic, which a lot of them were. I mean, that actually links into a story to do with the fort, that back in the 1800s, when they were apprehending smugglers, some of the soldiers died from alcohol poisoning, because this is true. I know this is funny, but it's true. Rather than give up the gin they'd apprehended from the smugglers to the stores or to the officials, they decided it was party time, and 4 of them drank themselves to death because the gin was so strong they couldn't cope with it. And I thought, well, that's your lesson learned, isn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit.
But yeah, that was a weird one. Now the next area we went on to, and to be fair, I have to say this: Harold isn't the only person to have been accidentally shot and killed at the fortress. Funny enough, it happened a month later with someone who called Albert Coles, who was there on a training. Because they used to it's amazing to actually picture this, and I have seen photos of it. They'd put those big tents the military used, those would all be up all around the fort, and they'd have soldiers coming in doing training, and this was musket training. And Private Coles got shot through the head by accident because someone was practicing with their rifle, or their rifle, thinking they were using the blanks. And because the blanks were the same colour as the active rounds that the Navy had been using for their training, didn't realise they'd been given a live round. And they had been told to sight it to the person's eye that they wanted to shoot. And so they were practicing with what they thought were blanks. And it wasn't a blank. And he died on the spot.
It's just funny that both got shot in the head.
Mm.
So that's
a month apart.
Telling me that someone else had something to do with it.
Well, the one excuse me, the one who shot Private Coles, he put his hand up to and said it was me. It was a mistake. He thought he was shooting, and their commanding officer said no, he was doing exactly what we taught them to do, to practice, to sight it to the person's eye. Because even if they're moving, you can keep eye contact with them. This is what the report said. But for me, that Harold doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
No.
There was no clue that he was depressed or wanted out. He had a fiance. He apparently had a good relationship with his mum. Everyone liked him. Yeah.
That sounds like somebody's done that. And he didn't take his own life.
See, I don't think he did, from what I've been reading. I think it was taken from him. It was known that he had his own revolver. It wasn't a service weapon. But he came from quite a rough area in Liverpool. So that could have been why he had one. But it doesn't make sense to me. But they ruled it suicide by temporary insanity. But yeah, it's a real head scratcher. But so the thing is, a month later, somebody else got shot. Again, the war hadn't even started by that point, and there were already people losing their lives. So I think next on, I want to talk about what we had in the casements and the magazine area. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, for though you can't see this, but Mark's looking a bit like, what? What's she going on about now?
Someone just came in.
Okay. And this was another one where I gave you two a history lesson, which actually proved to be quite bloody useful to you both, if I remember rightly.
No.
So we sat there. Mark, you're out in the corridor. You're calling out. And the lady who was with us, who was the medium, got quite badly affected, didn't she? We had to take her out. Yeah, we had to take her out. I went and sat right at the end, where the entrance would have been to people coming in if they were working in those magazines. And I got my hair flicked. I got tapped on the shoulder. I could hear voices in my ear. There's no one else there. Like at that side, you're all the other side of it. Yeah. Which was weird, but didn't surprise me in that bit, because as I say, I've had experiences in there before in the middle of the day with the family. But it was when, I think, Wayne, you said, I've just seen the shadow of a person walk past the back of the room.
Well, it wasn't the back of the room. I was sitting at the end of one of the munitions chambers, and I was sitting on the floor in the corner, and every now and then I would look at the doorway, because obviously of what was going on in the doorway with the lady that had to be removed.
Yeah.
And every once in a while when I looked back in the opposite corner, I could only see what I could describe as three shadows standing up against the wall. And every now and then they would take a side step to their right or to my left and then move back again. And then I thought, I'm not too happy with being this far down. They don't seem to be coming towards me. They're not moving any further about in the room. So I'll go down to the main doorway. As I stood at the doorway, I kept looking back into that corner. And that was when I saw a shadow walking past what I thought was a window into the courtyard. I never knew anything about what was on the other side of that window.
Okay, I'm going to say that one in a minute. Yeah.
Just out into the courtyard. And I kept seeing the shadow go past.
Didn't you see a light as well? Didn't you say
well, there was a light.
Or was it Mark, you saw the light? You saw the light.
Yes.
There was a very dim light in that window anyway. And that obviously once we turned all the lights out, it was gone. But The only light that I could see reflecting on the window was the light from the corridor outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I could keep seeing this shadow going past the window. Then another one would go back the other way. Then I saw two shadows go past the window.
Mm-hmm.
One went back. Then another two came past. Then two went back. Then one went back. And I'm like, this isn't right. So I said to everybody, there's someone walking past the window in the courtyard.
And Mark, you said the same thing with your room, didn't you? You were in a different room, and you said there's someone who keeps walking past. At which point,
we didn't have no light from outside, so the room I was in was complete blackness, and it was like someone with a candle walking past.
And that's when I dropped my bombshell bit of information for you both.
You did.
Yeah.
I turned the lights on to show you that what you had in the back of your rooms, I think, Wayne, your room only had one. Mark, yours was a bigger room, so it had two. They're not windows to the corridor. They're lights. Because back in those days before electricity, they would have lit up those magazines with candles, oil lamps, everything else. And it doesn't take a genius to work out that candles and oil lamps and all that kind of stuff around things that go bang is probably not a good idea. So all these magazines are all built, and it's the same pretty much any fortress you ever visit, with what's called a lighting tunnel behind it, which is it's an enclosed tunnel that runs down the back of all the magazines, and there will be a hole in the wall where the light would go. The magazine that the light it is illuminating has a glass cover, so it's protected, but it's open on the other side. And then I think you would debate saying, well, the figure, they must be really tall, because I could see head and shoulders in the window. And I said, well, we were working out height, saying they would have to be about 6'4", 6'5", if that was the case, based on the level. So went looking to find if we could get into the lighting tunnel. Well, officially it was closed off, so there wouldn't have been any other investigators walking down there with a torch. And when I walked down, I would have said those windows, well, they were the right height for me and I'm 5'2". So if you're between 5'2" and 5'6", 5'7", you would have looked as though you were well over 6 foot if you were seen through the other side. What I think you both saw was someone lighting the lighting tunnel, because it's not a straight through. And it certainly wouldn't ever have been open to the rest of the parade ground or whatever else. These tunnels were built as part of and like I say, you go to any fort and you will find them, because it was the way of making sure that they were illuminated.
But we did discover as well that that illumination tunnel was very, very narrow.
It was, yeah.
And we said that from what I had seen, with a number of shadows going backwards and forwards, and that tunnel was fairly long, because I think there's 4 or 5 munitions rooms in there.
There would have been more as well back in the 1800s.
At some point, they would have crossed over these shadows. If there were people going down there, they would have crossed over. But the way I saw it was that tunnel was too narrow for two people to pass each other. Yeah, I was seeing 2 and 3 shadows going backwards and forwards. They would have had to have met at some point in that tunnel. And that just completely baffled me until you actually mentioned more about the history of these tunnels. I'm thinking, right, okay, I obviously not being there before, I didn't realise that there was a munitions tunnel there.
Yeah.
I thought that was a window out into the courtyard, and just thought someone was walking past to investigate somewhere else.
Nope.
And it completely threw me when you came out with all of that. I'm like, okay, that's really strange.
Well, I like to throw curveballs into what people think it could be. But no, any fort you go to, that will be. They might have shut off the lighting tunnels, because then they are the most ramshackle construction. They were almost constructed as an afterthought, which is why they're so narrow, why they're so low, and everything else. It's because they want to spend as little money on that bit as possible. But yeah, anywhere. I mean, I know I went to one. It was a fort in Kent, Gravesend, I think. And yeah, you couldn't get more than, you could only fit one person walking up, and like you couldn't, you would have to be incredibly friendly with someone to pass by them. You couldn't pass by them shoulder to shoulder. You'd literally have to turn your back and sort of slide past. So and normally there was only one person who was in charge of doing that. That was their job. It was to keep the lights lit. But that was a strange, I must admit, I'd never heard of that happening to anyone there before. So that was, and the fact the two of you both verified it separately as well.
Yeah. And was completely different ends of the tunnel when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did have to search a bit for the entrance, and they'd say there was a sign saying, please don't go in. I didn't go in, of course, if anyone from there's listening. I didn't walk down it, of course.
They had a small barrier across there, which you were able to sort of slide round.
I didn't go past it, Wayne.
It wasn't really there, and you didn't really go down the tunnel. No.
But that was interesting. But did you know during World War One? I mean, obviously it had strong links. It was a naval fort because you had the Royal Naval Air Force and Royal Naval Air Station next door, which is where the docks are now. That was an experimental air station, Royal Naval Air Station. And they also, they're the building, if you saw it, that's just to the, I think if you're, sort of just to the, slightly to the right, it's a museum now. That was back it was about 1890 something. They used that to store submarine mines, and there was an old train track that would bring them to the fort. So they could use those mines that you saw in the fort. They were used to stop submarines at the end of the 19th century. So its use has been interesting. The other thing it was used for was in World War One. It housed conscientious objectors before they were sent to the front to die.
Really?
Nice. Yeah. There was a couple of places in the UK that were known for that, but Landguard was one of them. They would switch them between Landguard and the Redoubt so that they didn't get too familiar with the place. They also used to keep lots of them at Richmond Castle up in Yorkshire. And there was one point, I think it was in 1960, it was 1916. There was 50 of them, and they'd all been sentenced to death. And so they were brought, a load of them were bought from Landguard, another load were bought from Richmond to be shipped out from, I think it was from Harwich to France, because they were going to be shot as soon as they got there. They changed their minds. They got 10-year prison sentence instead. But yeah, it's got quite a seedy history when it comes to sort of human rights, and the way conscientious objectors were treated in World War One was not good. It was not good. And although Hacksaw Ridge is World War II, when you look at how he was treated, when he said, I don't want to carry a weapon, I just want to help people.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen that film, you've got to watch it. It's brilliant. It's absolutely amazing. And he was classed as kind of a conscientious objector in that he was happy to go to war, but he wasn't prepared to carry a gun. I think it was about 73 people's lives he saved on one night or something ridiculous like that. But yeah, a lot of these
conscientious... that kept going back for them, didn't it?
Yeah, just one more. But yeah, these conchies, they were going to be killed, and a lot of them were kept at Landguard Fort. So it's an interesting one. Then we go on to World War II. We do go on to World War II because that's going to lead me to that blasted room we snuck ourselves. Yeah. One of the most famous, I'll talk about some of the operations that were managed from the place first, because this is name dropping. This is kind of historical name dropping. Operation Dynamo. Do you know what that was? Wayne, do you know what Operation Dynamo was?
I've heard of Operation Dynamo, but I can't remember exactly what it was.
Mark, any ideas?
Oh.
If I say May 1940, does that help?
No.
Dunkirk. Getting them out of Dunkirk.
Oh, wow.
It was partially managed from Landguard. Pretty famous. Then you have D-Day, had boats going out from Landguard for D-Day. Some of the forces went out from Landguard for D-Day. But the one that only recently came to light that was actually orchestrated and managed from Landguard is one called Operation Outward. And this one is kind of funny when you think about it, but it would have been pretty destructive. They released, and this was in March 1942, and it's only relatively recently come to light. This is what happened from there. 99,000 balloons were launched. Just over half of them had incendiary bombs attached to them. And the other, just under half, had steel wires. And the idea was that the steel wires would catch the power lines in Germany. I mean, we're not talking party balloons. We're talking like industrial sized balloons, big balloons. The wires would touch, the steel wires would touch the power lines and short out the power in Germany. Because what they also found that was quite useful was the Germans kept sending their aircraft up, their elite Luftwaffe, up to shoot down these balloons because they didn't know what they had in them. So it meant that the Luftwaffe were preoccupied shooting down 10-a-penny balloons and not more expensive Allied aircraft. And that all took place from Landguard. And it was mainly the Wrens, the female navy, who were responsible for dealing with it all. That's quite cool, isn't it?
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then again, it's one of them things, isn't it? The Wrens don't get the what's the word?
Recognition.
That's the word for what they did.
I think there's an awful lot of the women, the World War II women, who don't get the recognition. Whether you're looking at the Land Army, whether you're looking at the Wrens, whether you're looking at the WAF, whether you're looking at the auxiliary forces. I mean, I think there's an awful lot of them that the fact that some of the women, it's relatively recently that they got the recognition. I mean, this is where we can go off subject, but when you look at the Air Transport Auxiliary, those people who, the men and women who flew the aeroplanes that were broken to be repaired, they flew new planes to where they needed to be. And it was only about a fifth of them were female. But that was pioneering. And those women were taking risks every time they went up in the air because they had to go up in the air without being trained on instruments. So if they flew into cloud or if the weather came back down, they didn't have to fly. And somebody, if you don't know about flying, when you fly in instruments, you learn how to almost fly blind. So you can't see outside. You fly on what your instrument's telling you to do. They weren't taught to fly on instruments. They had no radios. They had no weapons. And there are cases of some of those female pilots going toe-to-toe with German fighters and having to just use pure flying skill to get away from them. So there's it's amazing. These I mean, even the male pilots with the ATA. You had there was one male pilot. He was an ace. He was a World War I ace, but he was too old and fat to fly for the RAF, even though he was an incredibly talented pilot. So he used to do a lot of the ferry runs where they'd ferry people from place to place who needed to be, again, with the Air Transport Auxiliary, to time how long he was up in the air for when he knew he knew that if he flew one way, it would take him like 12 minutes. He'd smoke a cigar. And he knew if he finished the cigar, he'd been flying for 12 minutes. If the cigar is only half, that's how he timed it.
Yeah.
There was another one who, again, World War I ace, he had lost an arm and an eye when he was flying because back in World War I, is this boring, by the way, or is this quite interesting?
Oh, it's quite interesting.
Okay.
I'm interested.
Okay. I'm sorry, listener, if you're not, but you chose to listen to this. Anyway, in World War in World War I, they obviously didn't have like bomb bay doors and all that crap in their biplanes. They would throw the bombs out the side, and he was throwing a hand grenade out over the trenches, I think it was, and hand grenade went off in his hand, blew his hand off and his eye. So consequently, he was classed as disabled and wasn't allowed to fly again, but he offered to fly for the ATA and they said yes. And when somebody said, well, if you're having to do something and you need your one hand that should be on the stick of the aircraft, i.e. controlling the bloody thing, what do you do? And he goes, I just control it with my knees. But these were all like, one of the female pilots was a lady by the name of Lettice Curtis. And she sounds like she was harridan to know, but her flying ability, I tell you what, if she'd been allowed to fly for the RAF, she would have been one of their top pilots. Her flying ability, she was one of the few women who was licensed to fly on all the aircraft, because they had to be licensed to fly on certain aircraft depending on how complicated, so multi-engines and everything. And she was one of the few pilots of the whole ATA who was licensed to fly everything. She was amazing, scary-ish. I've read her book, scary ass woman, but amazing pilot. And it just makes me think that there's all these women who were doing this stuff, who, if they'd been given the chance to actually do it almost face to face with the enemy, would have made a difference.
But do you think that's the reason they weren't given the chance? Because they knew that they were better than the men at the time? And
no, I think they still don't now, really, do they? To do a man's job. I mean, you can go back even further, because during World War I, women were doing the men's jobs while the men were fighting. When the men came back, women stepped back and let them take them back. But after World War II, a lot of women said, "No, I quite like this. I quite like earning my own money. No, I don't. I don't want to go back to being a housewife." And that's why it changed. But no, it happened in World War I as well. They had a very, very strong involvement with Landguard, which pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I know my nan was in the WAFs, and she was stationed here in Colchester during the Second World War. And I was there. It was basically here that she met my granddad, and my granddad was second in command of an MTB.
What's an MTB?
Motor torpedo boat.
Right.
And he'd just come back from what my parents have classed as gun running over in the Caribbean. And it was supposed that he had stopped a second Pearl Harbor type attack from a Japanese submarine.
Wow.
But the Americans wanted to give him a medal, and British government said no, because he wasn't supposed to be there. And my nan would fight for years to try and get it recognised. And the Americans said, we're still quite happy for him to have the medal. But MOD said no. So she gave up. But
it makes you wonder how many people have gone through that. I mean, you can look at the fact that when you look at the bomber division, their memorial at, is it Hyde Park or Regent's Park? I can never remember which one it is, but that beautiful memorial, the fact how new that is, that should have been there 50 years beforehand.
Yes,
but
definitely.
Nobody would acknowledge them. And I've read interviews with people who were bomber pilots who wouldn't tell people what they did in World War II because they were so scared of people calling them scum and everything else. And it's just like, war is shit. War is shit. People die. People do horrible, horrible things, and castigating someone just because of I mean, there are some people I would castigate if I met someone who ran a concentration camp and thought it was okay to beat children by bashing their heads against a wall just because they were Jewish. Yes, I would judge them. I admit it. I would judge them very harshly.
But anybody would.
You'd hope. But meeting someone who was a bomber pilot who had to bomb, I don't know, Berlin and risk killing civilians, to me, it wouldn't matter what nationality they were. I wouldn't judge them for that having been their role, because it's not fair on any side. I mean,
well, the problem would have been that if he'd have turned around and said, "I'm not doing it. You're not sending me over to Berlin to drop them bombs," it would be out the back in front of the firing squad.
And also, you didn't have the amount of information we have now to see what is actually going on. All you'd have been told was what your commanding officer told you. I mean, when you see some of the propaganda that was spread during World War One, you can see that. And in fact, even with what's the awful situation, with Russia and the Ukraine, you see some of the stuff the Russian people are being told by their state TV, and you're watching it going, that's not what's on the news over here. You know, you know that it's being manipulated to make them feel a certain way. So, yeah, I think there's an awful lot of things. And the reason I'm coming on to talking bombers, I told you I can segue back into things because I'm damn good, is when we were in this room that I think where, didn't they call them the ones who looked after the officers, they stayed, wasn't it? It was that room. It said that where the Batmen, wasn't that what the term in the army was?
Something like that.
Batmen, something like that. Anyway, and we were sat in there nattering, and if I remember rightly, the REM pod started going off when I mentioned Guy Gibson.
Yeah, we also had the cat balls as well, one on the floor and one on the dresser.
Yeah.
And they kept flashing at random first before the REM pod started going off.
Yeah. But it was kind of in reply.
Yeah.
To me asking
to your hero.
Pardon?
To your hero.
To my hero. Yeah.
Yes.
The amazing Guy Gibson. And it was so weird because he wouldn't have had anything to do with there. I mean, for the fact he was Navy, obviously he was RAF. As far as I'm aware, there was no World War II aircraft shot down over Landguard. There was World War One aircraft shot down over Landguard, but not World War II. Why was it triggering when we mentioned Guy Gibson?
Could have
very strange.
Special flights or special training flights have happened around there, and the planes could have come down.
Possibly, I haven't found any.
But they wouldn't document it, would they? Because it's a special mission training kind of thing.
It would have leaked by now. It would have.
I mean, we did mention on the night that could there have been a possibility that there was a morale tour, like the Americans used to do.
Yeah.
We said, didn't we, that sometimes if an American mission was successful, they would send the crew around to various air bases to help boost morale.
Yeah,
that's true. Actually,
could they have done that with Guy just to help?
Well, he was pulled off active duty for a while because they felt he was too valuable to risk him being killed. I mean, crazy thinking he was only in his early mid-20s at this point, and that's when he was pulled off active duty to write Enemy Coast Ahead. So whether he did a press tour, and I don't know off the top of my head, I'd have to really dig into the research to find out if he did. But that would be
probably be quite difficult to find it.
Well,
you'd have to be looking at his service record. Because I know with my granddad, he had to have a service diary. Yeah. And every place that he was stationed at, he had to mark down the day and the time that he arrived there, and what unit it was, and the time and the date and time that he left. And it would have all been marked down in this diary. So if he'd have done something like a morale tour, he would have had it all logged down as part of his journey.
Yeah, I don't remember reading that Gibson did a morale tour. I know he was taken off active duty to write, because he'd done so many missions. They said he was exhausted, but he was so successful and kind of popular as a poster boy for the bombers that they took him off active duty to write Enemy Coast Ahead. But
we did have a lot of bomber command stations in the area, though. I mean, we had Ruffin Control Tower.
Yeah, but that's all American. That's US Air Force.
It would have still been a morale booster regardless of what forces were there.
I don't think they would have sent an RAF pilot into a US Air Force airbase.
I would have done just for the fun of it.
Well, all I can tell you on this one is when I investigated RAF Tibenham and we mentioned RAF, they didn't like it.
Yeah,
they weren't happy.
No, I think there was a lot of animosity between the two during that time.
Yes, because I think the British felt the Americans were getting stuff that they weren't, and it was the whole of sort of overpaid, oversexed, and over here. But yeah, Norfolk and Suffolk was called Little America because of how many American air bases and the fact it was more American than British.
Yeah.
I grew up in Norfolk, so the stories were still there. And I remember, gosh, about 40 years ago, there was an anniversary and we had loads of them in the village that I lived in, because it used to be the 2nd Air Division's headquarters, and they all came back to visit. In fact, I think Jimmy Stewart was there, sort of looking back with hindsight. I think he was there too. So, yeah, I can't see that Gibson would have, there was too much of a, the only American pilots they tended to sort of associate with were the ones that came over before the war started. Because there was that animosity as well, wasn't there? It was the fact the Americans sort of came in at the last minute, go, hey, we're going to save you all, sort of thing. And it was just like, bugger you, we've been dealing with this for 3 years. But it is
the only ones that were actually sort of welcomed with open arms were the ones that weren't allowed to go into the American Air Force. So there was a whole squadron, wasn't there, that came over,
which I cannot remember for the life of me what it was called.
No, and they all came over to fly with the Royal Air Force. So they had their own squadron, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, but they kind of intermingled them within the Air Force, same as you had the New Zealand pilots, the Australian pilots, the Canadian pilots, everything else. It was a real multinational allied effort. But I'll have to have a look and see if I can find anything if he did do a PR tour, because that would be quite interesting. It was just weird the way, I mean, the other thing we said it could have been was the unit that was in the room. Like, there was a big dresser type, Welsh dresser type thing, looked very MOD-esque. And we said we wondered if it possibly had been on an RAF base or something before it was moved. And you said that when you were forces, it was quite notorious to move furniture from base.
Yes. Yeah, it was. There'd be, I mean, every now and then you'd see lorries coming in and you'd be like, oh, where's this one come from? And I can remember when I was stationed at RAF Swinderby, there was about 3 lorries came in and they were unloading furniture that had come from RAF Wattisham in Suffolk. And we were like, so why is it all coming here? Well, they were saying, well, because the RAF is losing Wattisham to the army, so we want our stuff out so they can move their stuff in. And they just literally disperse it between the barracks within other units. So it was quite a regular thing to do.
Wow.
Well, the weirdest thing that happened in that room, the weirdest thing is what you captured on video. And I don't think people believe me when I've shown them the video. So we're in this room that has kind of a, I suppose, a double door. So it's got a door that faces in, then a sort of a, almost like a
L shape.
Yeah.
A stunted L shape.
Yeah, and then a door on the other side. Now, Mark, you take this one. What happened? Because I still have to pinch myself. Pardon?
We closed it.
Go on. What happened?
We closed the door to because it was chilly. So we closed the door. We was all having a laugh and whatever, and there was no breeze to say come in out of the room, so to go through the room and out the door. So when the door opened, you thought, okay, breeze, but there was no breeze that come in.
Nope. And you, I mean, I remember, Wayne, you were sitting sort of to the side of the door. I was at the back. There was that other lady with us as well.
She was in the corner of the room, wasn't she?
She was in the other corner of the room. You, Mark, were sitting almost right by that door. So if there had been a breeze, it would have hit me or it would have hit you.
Yeah, there was no breeze.
There was no breeze, no. So the door flies open. It flew open enough that it actually moved the REM pod.
Yeah, it hit the REM pod and pushed it.
Yeah, that's how hard it flew open. So I can't remember if we shut it again ourselves or if we asked them to shut it because we were cold at this point. I know we did both.
I think for the first couple of occasions, we did close the door ourselves.
To see if it would open.
We then mixed it up and we asked them to, we asked Spirit to close the door afterwards then. And then we moved the REM pod a bit closer and it was still opening and then it would close again on its own.
On command.
Yeah, on demand.
But the thing is, Wayne, it wasn't closing just a little bit. When you touched that door, when it closed, it was closed.
Yeah, it was closing into the, it was slightly swollen, wasn't it? So if you tapped it, it wouldn't close itself properly. It would just rest on the door frame. It was closing into the door frame without anyone touching it.
And the first time it closed, I still had my back to it.
You did.
When it first opened, on my back was, because it was like an inside porch area, wasn't it? So you came in through the door and you would technically turn left to go through the inner door. And I had my back against that wall where the actual door would have joined into the wall. And when that opened and you said that door's just opened on its own, I've turned around in shock because I'm thinking, well, I can feel no draft. And then when it closed, I could feel the force of it closing through the wall. The vibration went through into my back.
We weren't anywhere near it.
Okay.
I think didn't we get it to open and shut on command about 4 times in the
Something
end?
like that,
yeah. It was like once, it's just a fluke. Twice, maybe, but 4 times on command, opening and shutting.
You don't get that.
No.
And the thing was as well that as good investigators do, they try to find answers to it first. And we even looked at the possibility where there was the little hatch through to the next room. We even looked at the possibility that there could have been a breeze coming through there or the fireplace. And straight away we debunked it because there was no airflow coming from either exit in the walls.
I think I moved around the room as well to see if the vibration of the floor would cause the door to move in or nothing. It's like I say, that place,
the whole place is weird.
And to be honest, we've not even talked about the ghost stories that get told about there. The fact that a 17th century musketeer is seen walk, because only one member of Darrell's crew got killed in 1667. Only one. And supposedly he's seen walking along one of the bastions to warn people that danger's coming. We haven't talked about, and now this one I'm not 100% sure about. Supposedly in the 1700s, there was a young lad who was diagnosed with the plague, who was locked up in one of the basement rooms to die alone so he didn't contaminate anyone else. I'm skeptical of that one, but that's supposed to be screams are heard. The World War I soldier who's drowned in the bathtub, the woman Maria, the Portuguese woman who's meant to stand again on one of the bastions screaming for her husband before she killed herself because she'd been accused of stealing off some of the other wives. They all used to live there. I mean, this is the other thing. You kind of looking at pictures of it in the 1800s, you wouldn't recognize it. There's houses there, there's living accommodation, there would have been more magazines. Some of those rooms that had like the bathrooms in were actually ammo stores before the plumbing was invented. So
it would have been altered over time.
It's a complete layer cake of different histories in that place. It's amazing.
Well, it's very similar with Harwich Redoubt, isn't it? Because obviously that was built in 1810, and over the years, its use was altered just slightly, whether it was with different armaments or viewing platforms and things like that would have been added or taken away, and the rooms would have changed uses over. The years.
The rooms
things out.
To be honest, I'm going to sound snobby here. I don't think the Redoubt can compare to the fort at all.
No.
At all. The fact is the Redoubt would have had a different purpose. The Redoubt was for resupplying as opposed to a fighting fortress. I mean, I am pro Landguard. I just
definitely.
I could quite happily sleep there.
Even though I've investigated at Harwich Redoubt for about 10, 11 times, including 2 sleepovers, just that one trip to Landguard Fort, that sold me.
Cool.
I would rather go to Landguard Fort than Harwich Redoubt any day.
Yes.
Yeah. Hands down.
Yes.
That's just whether I've got enough pennies in my pocket.
Yeah, it is a little bit more expensive, but then again, the benefit of Landguard is the size. You can actually have more people there to help you split the costs. That is the benefit. You're not going to contaminate each other's evidence.
Yeah, but you don't want too many people there, do you?
No, but you can split the cost more than you could say at Harwich. You can't have as many people at the Redoubt as you could at Landguard.
I think with Harwich Redoubt, you're probably looking between 15 to 20 people.
Or
maximum. With Landguard, you could probably go 40.
as long as you managed it and made sure people were in different areas. Yeah, definitely.
Which I have found with some groups, they don't do that. They sort of just get them in there, give them a cup of coffee, and say, "Right,
off you go.
I'm back for 10:30. Off you go."
I think if you're with people you know and you can work that out amongst yourselves, it's not too bad. But if you're with a group that you've paid a lot of money to be there with on a tour, it needs to be a bit better organised. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So, boys, what have you both got coming up then that you want people to know about?
I don't know, to be honest. Seriously, I know we're booking stuff for 2024.
Haven't Paracom announced Dudley Castle?
Yeah.
And aren't you also working with the Ram Inn as well?
Yeah. I only found that out the other day. So I don't really go on social media. I look at things, and if I've got time, I will jump onto social media. If I haven't, I can't be bothered.
I must admit, I didn't know whether Pete would have actually told you about all of these.
I get little text messages from him. What do you reckon on this? But that's all I get is, what do you reckon? And then he's like, okay, I've booked it. And then he's said something else, I've booked that. And then I've booked that. And you're thinking, hold on a minute, what did you book?
All right, so Paracom have got Dudley Castle coming up. I don't know if there's any tickets left for next year. They've also working with Wednesbury doing Ram Inn. They also started doing some work at the Jarvis School in Herefordshire as well. You did an investigation there recently.
We did there, and we're looking to go to her other one that she's got. That's at the hotel.
Oh yeah, because she's got a nunnery and is it Bilthwells or Bilthwells, something like that?
Yeah. But if you want, and I'm serious, I know we're going to go off subject, but the Jarvis School, that you have to go to.
It is on my to-do list. It's just a bit of a trek.
Phenomenal.
I've not heard a negative thing about that place from everyone I know, and a lot of the people I know have gone what I'd call seasoned investigators. They don't impress easily, and I have said that's on my to-do list. It's kind of an 8-hour round trip, so it's
stay over.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's a stay over job. It's just balancing everything. But yeah,
it's difficult sometimes with locations that are further away. You have to sort of mix things about and arrange things, and it just makes it a bit harder.
Yeah, no, it's definitely on my to-do list.
There's a World War II airbase not far from where Pete lives. I can't think of the name of it.
Sawbridgeworth.
Yeah, you need to go there. We went there. It was just me, Pete, and Mel.
Yeah.
And we had the app running on flight mode.
You were allowed to come to that one.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
We got told to get out by an American voice.
That's one that Pete and I'm trying to get him to organise, but I think he's just because we're digressing, but my nearly 14-year-old wants to do an investigation, and I don't want to bring him on a public one where there's people I don't know, but I don't mind bringing him on a private one where I know all the people basically. So he's well up for doing that one. So I need Pete to organise it. Tell me when we can come over.
I will get a hold of Pete and get it done before winter, because it's a good one to go to. And
it's not far from me either, and it's not far from you. And exactly. I think it's literally a spitting distance from Pete. So yeah, no, Sawbridgeworth, RAF Sawbridgeworth. But there's a lot of old. I mean, you've got the one at Marks Tay, haven't you? There was an airfield at Marks Tay. Wayne,
what was that?
Wasn't there an airfield at Marks Tay?
There was one at Dunmow.
No, I'm sure there was one at
Braintree. You've got Earl's Colne, which
that might
is
be
near
the one
Marks Tay.
That's the one I'm probably thinking of then.
Earl's Colne Airfield, which was blimey, which oddly enough was where the incident I had, where we actually discovered something at Ruffin Control Tower. He originated from Earl's Colne Airfield, and that link had come through while we were doing the investigation. I've got a friend that's got a snack van over there, so we go over there every once in a while, and we'll sit there. And they've still got a couple of the old aircraft over there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so I mean, yeah, I mean, in North Essex there was a lot of airfields, mainly American ones, but.
But then, as you get to my side of Essex, with sort of Chelmsford, we had Boreham, so RAF Boreham. You've got North Weald,
Rivenhall as well, wasn't there, at Whitton?
Yeah, I'm not sure what Rivenhall had there, but we were fighters. We were fighter aircraft. So worked a lot with Kent and all of those. So it's very interesting. If you're into that kind of thing, it's interesting. If you're not, it's probably really boring. So Wayne, what have you got coming up?
I'm having a break at the moment because I've done so much. Yeah, I've done so much over the last couple of months that I'm sort of slowly exhausting myself. We've been filming for Truth Beyond Paranormal. We did I think it's a 700-year-old mill down near Aylesbury a couple of weeks ago. The following week, I was the Parafest at the church farm in Skegness. Then last weekend, I was over at Wisbeach Castle. And then I'm filming again this weekend over at Dunwich, which is a return visit. We've been there twice before, but we feel there's a lot more to be discovered over there.
See, that's on my to-do list as well, Dunwich.
It is an amazing place. And the second time we were there, it must have been just gone midnight, and we were coming away from what was left of the old leper chapel at the main church there. And anybody that knows Dunwich, there's no street lights. All you've got is the house illuminations, and that's it. And as we're walking back towards the beach, there was myself, my partner Ellen, and our director Sam walking along the road. The other two teammates were in front of us. And out of nowhere, we heard small footprints running up behind us. And we quickly turned around and saw wet footprints coming up the road towards us. And then they stopped right behind us.
Wow.
And we can only assume that it was from the investigation we were doing in the hospital, the chapel area, was a little girl called Charlotte. And we think it was her coming after us because she attached herself to my partner. So we communicating through her only. None of us actually knew what was going on, but she knew exactly who it was. She knew her name and the fact that she missed her mum. And we sort of looked at Ellen as being the mother figure. And she'd latched onto Ellen and wanted to come with us. And I think the weirdest one was the footsteps on the beach. We were on the beach, and we were trying to get try and sort of get a bit more of understanding of the heart of Dunwich. And if anybody knows that story, it's quite a sad story, really.
If anyone doesn't know it, go and Google it, because that's a show in its own right. If I'm honest, that is an episode of this in its own right. Yeah,
Google the heart of Dunwich. It's an amazing story. But as we were on the beach, we decided to do a spirit board session. And about halfway in, we could hear footsteps behind us in the stones. But they were very slow steps. It was like there was someone sort of slowly creeping up behind us. The moon was out and it was full. So you could see the moon reflecting off the water. So it's quite illuminated. There was no clouds. There was no one else on that beach apart from us. 5 of us all sitting around the Ouija board. And we all heard these footsteps. And I think on camera, you could hear the footsteps creeping past us on the beach. When the session finished, we went down to the shoreline to thank spirits for the evening. And as we walked down to the beach, you see a set of footprints that ran right the way past where we were sitting.
Wow. So how do people watch these episodes, Wayne?
Right. Truth Beyond Paranormal is on Facebook and YouTube. We have got TikTok as well, but we tend to sort of try and ease off of pushing it onto other social media platforms, because obviously it takes a lot more to push it onto them. So we tend to do little clips onto TikTok. But what we do try to do is we have an episode that we film, which is then put together like most episodes are. But with reception permitting, we also do a live feed.
Mm-hmm.
And that live feed will usually run throughout the whole night. So if anybody sees an interesting part within an episode, they could go to the live feed on Facebook or YouTube, and actually fast forward to the whole section and see everything in its entirety.
Cool. Good idea.
So we could be doing a live feed for about 6 hours, and then everybody can then just sort of watch that whole thing. So it's a live episode as well as an edited episode. And we do like to let it be known that we do have a blooper reel as well. I
think most of my stuff would be on the blooper reel, if I'm honest.
We do put up some good cock-ups, and they are quite funny. The first one we had was we were doing RAF Upward in near Huntingdon.
Cambridgeshire way, isn't it?
Yeah. And as I was explaining about a dark shadow that had been seen going down in and out of offices in the corridor of the admin block, my partner's phone went off. She forgot to put it on silent, and she had The Little Mermaid as a theme tune. So as I'm standing there going, a black shadow has been often seen darting from office to office in this block. All of a sudden you hear do 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 do, and I'm like, no. So we like to show the human side of things as well, and the fun side of investigating.
Yeah, definitely.
But on top of that, I'm also writing my 5th book in what I call Spook and Ori series. 3 years ago, well, it goes back to when I was working with Most Haunted. I started a little project called Spook and Ori, where in between the airing of a series, I would write the story, and now I do a live broadcast to keep the people on the Facebook group sort of occupied with various things. When I left working with them, I decided, peer pressure, my mum was the main culprit. She said, you need to start releasing those books. And I looked, and I spoke to an author whose mother-in-law lives next door, and she said, self-publish. She said, do it yourself, because it's a lot of hassle going through agents and finding the right people. Just do it yourself. So straight to Amazon, got up on the KDP, and I haven't looked back. I'm now currently writing my 5th book called Overdue, which is, unfortunately, this one is going to have a really sad ending compared to some of the others that I've written.
Are these fiction or non-fiction, or?
They're totally fiction. They are ghost stories in essence.
Okay.
One of them, Cricket, is more of a Mother Nature, supernatural style story. But all of my books have either historical content, or they are factual places with factual people in them.
Yeah.
Cricket has my mum, dad, and their dog in it, and it is based in Corfu, where my mum and dad live. So I squeezed them into the story, and
most authors do. I think that any author who writes fiction, they have some of the characters, real people.
And my son is on the front cover of Cricket. And the actual front cover itself has the zoomed in picture of a cricket. My son's face is in the reflection of its eye.
Well, talking about using your kids as models in your photos, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's my 2 on the cover of Paranormal Playtime. There you go.
Yeah. So, it's so many things I'm doing. And there was another little project that I'm going to start doing on my own called Wayne's Weird and Wonderful World. And they're going to be little shorts that I'm going to put on Facebook and YouTube, where I will find totally obscure things that aren't really that well known, but are really strange and mysterious, and sort of talk about them and what happened and how it came about. Like,
well, I'm going to show my age now. Party time, excellent. Well, so anyone under a certain age won't get the joke.
No. They don't. Wayne's World?
Yes. Buy time, excellent. Yeah.
But to start off with, when I was working on a logo on like www, and I'm thinking that looks too much like a website.
You might get sued for that one.
So it's but yeah, I mean, I want to start with one about a church in Mexico, I think it was, and they needed a spiral staircase to get to the choir's gallery, and nobody was able to do it. And the nuns there prayed for, I think it was something like 9 days and 9 nights, and still nothing, until this guy turned up, said, "I will do the staircase for you." He built the staircase. There was no external fixings to hold it in place. The staircase itself is so narrow that it technically shouldn't stand up, and yet it does. And when he finished, the nuns went to offer him some payment. He refused it and just disappeared. Just walked out the church and vanished. The nuns then went to all of the people that supplied wood. They looked at the staircase and said, "We don't sell that wood. It doesn't come from this area." I think it was some sort of cedar wood that doesn't come from that area. And the nuns put it down to St. Joseph, because they thought after 9 days and 9 nights of praying, this guy just turns up out of the blue, says he's a carpenter, he can do the wooden staircase without any issues, and then he just goes. And I thought it's things like that people haven't really sort of heard that often of. And I thought, I've got a little thing I could do there, just a little project for myself.
Yeah.
So
keeps you out of mischief. Keeps you out of mischief.
It does. But then I've got, obviously now we're coming into the end of school terms. I've got 4 kids to look after, and it's sort of, I need to take the break. So I'm off over to Corfu again for a week. To relax and unwind a little bit, and pick the kids up and bring them home, because 2 of them are off to be with my mum and dad, and then I've got to go over and bring them back. So, but
well,
and then it's back to the grindstone again with me 5th book.
Well, on that note, you've worn me out. You've both been very well behaved, actually. I'm quite surprised. You've been quite nice to me, Mark. Are you feeling all right?
I'm frightened of you. That's what it is.
Since when?
For a while. I just keep my distance. You have a presence, shall we say?
Me?
Yeah, a nice one.
I'm a softie.
You do worry me just a little bit.
It's made me feel really bad now. A great note to end the show on. Yeah, okay. To anyone else who's scared of me, you don't need to be scared of me unless you're an asshole. And even then, I've been taught to run away if I have to. Run away from trouble. Well, unless it's a strange noise in a room that could be a ghost, and then I run to it. But I run away from living people. I run. But on that note, thank you both for coming on the show to chat about Landguard. I don't know how I'm going to end this now. Thank you for coming on to chat about Landguard. It's been really interesting. I'm glad the 2 of you are now Landguard fans.
Big time.
It's just such a cool place. It really is. That's why it's one of my top 5 to visit. I can go back there daytime, evening, you name it, and it's just weird. The place is weird.
I sent Pete a message saying the day afterwards we need to go back. You need to book it now.
Cool.
So I don't usually do that to places.
Well, I'm glad my enthusiasm was justified for the place, because I bloody love it there. So, well, thank you all of you for listening to Haunted Histories on Landguard Fort. I hope you have enjoyed our ramblings. And honestly, if you go onto TikTok, you can find the video, at least part of it, of the door opening on command. I'm going to be sort of a bit quiet through August because, as Wayne said, I also have kids and it's the school holidays, and then we're into September, and September is going to be busy. You can catch me at the Haunted Antique Centre's Parameet in Rugby Way on the 2nd and 3rd of September. I'm one of the official speakers, ooh la la, there. And then 2 weeks later, I am one of the official speakers at the Festival of the Unexplained at Bosworth Hall. I believe there's still some day tickets left, although the sort of weekend tickets and the VIP tickets are all gone. But you still catch me speaking on the Saturday if you get a day ticket there. And I'll be there for the whole weekend if anyone wants to buy a book or just to have a chat about history and argue with me about Richard III and whether he did actually kill his 2 nephews. No, he didn't, is my opinion. But if you want to come and argue it, feel free. So on that note, thank you ever so much for listening. And I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Have a good evening. Sleep tight. And don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.